Welcome back to the Stretch Game, the stretch between discovering deeper purpose and mastering higher productivity. I hope your day is going well. This episode is kind of a frustrating one for me because I'm doing this thing called Essays on Effectiveness. And what it is, we're taking icons from our time, and they're people that are clearly extremely effective. And we're picking apart and analyzing over a week's worth of research what makes them most effective. And then I give those tools and strategies and that wisdom to you so that you can very clearly be empowered to apply it to your own life. Here's the real challenge with this though. Whenever you look at these people, they're glorified on screen sometimes. They have personas that are different than their true image. And sometimes that glorification sets them apart from who we are, right? It almost makes them subhuman. And we have to constantly remind ourselves that they're flesh and blood, they're no different than you and I, or it's a very disempowering concept, right? If they're different than us, then we can't attain what they have attained, which is completely untrue. So the challenge that I have today is I'm talking about Will Smith. Will Smith, not necessarily by his own means, but personifies that idea of glorifying an icon. And one of the reasons that happens for me, that I make that connection in my own head, is because he is always up, man. I mean, just in the research I've done over the last week, the guy is always up. And so I'm working against that, because if that's a challenge for me, my belief is that's probably a challenge for others as well. So I really want to humanize the guy, and I want to bring him to our level and then look at, okay, why is he the way that he is, so that you can be empowered to take those tools and strategies and role model him and use those things in your own life. So it's been a struggle. I'm going to do my best, and hopefully whenever you leave this episode, you'll know exactly what makes him most effective, the number one thing, even though there are a lot of things, and you'll be able to be a little more Will Smith-like in the effective way at the end of this episode. That's my goal. Stay tuned. All right, so in my mind, the proof is in the pudding, and so in Essays on Effectiveness Nature, I'm going to give you a few stories about Will Smith so that I can then make my claim, and I think you'll be fairly certain that I've hit this right on the head, that this is what makes him most effective, and then I'm going to spin it, and I'm going to give you the tools and strategies to put yourself in the place where he is, to have the same kind of effectiveness. The first story comes from the brick wall, okay? When Will Smith was 12 years old and his little brother was 9, his dad had a shop, and the front of the shop had a brick wall. Now, this brick wall was 16 feet high by 30 feet long, okay? For some reason, I think we understand the reason, the dad tears the wall down and he tells Will that he wants him and his little brother to rebuild him a nice new brick wall. Now, at 12 years old, Will says, I looked at that thing and I thought, there's never going to be a new wall here. So every day after school, they would dig this trench that had to be 6 foot deep to pour concrete for a foundation. They had to mix the concrete by hand. This is a 12-year-old and a 9-year-old. And then they had to start stacking the bricks brick by brick. And he says in one interview that you don't have to build the perfect wall. You just have to lay the perfect brick, okay? This brick has to be perfect. Then you stack the next brick on top of that. And if you just lay the perfect brick over and over again, you'll have a wall. And what's really interesting is the way he talks about this. The words say that this is the impossible task, but his tone, his inflection, his body language says This was a good thing to be doing, okay? As he's telling the story, he's so proud of the story, and in one interview, they actually go back to where his dad's shop was. The wall is still standing to this day, and he could not be more excited about telling the story like an 11 of building the wall. He was at an energy level of 11 when he told the story. So that's really story number 1. Story number 2, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Okay, I didn't realize this until I did the research, but Will Smith had come off of a hit album in high school, a hit rap album in high school, whenever he was asked to be on The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. The rap album did really well. He ended up being the first guy, him and Jazzy Jeff, to win a Grammy, a Grammy for rap. And so there was a lot of appeal for this guy, so they thought, let's put him in this show. Will Smith had 0 acting experience up until the day they shot the first episode of The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. In fact, you can YouTube this. There are several scenes in the first season, especially the first couple of episodes, where you see Will say his line on the show, and then he is straight up mouthing the words of the lines of the other person talking almost out loud, and then he goes to his lines. Like 0 acting experience, 0 polish. But here's the thing. Nobody cared. Nobody cares. To this day, nobody cares. Fresh Prince is being shown all around the world 24/7. You can go to a station somewhere in some country, and it's playing right now. And if you watch that show, you know what carried that show. Will Smith was on an energy level of 12 in every moment of every episode of that show. The experience didn't matter. The training didn't matter. Him having natural ability or talent didn't matter. It was that he gave himself, all of himself, to you, the viewer, during that show. You can watch any episode of it. You will see that stand out. That's one of the reasons it's still such a popular show to this day, and why so many people remember him, because he gave them that gift of all of himself. And you feel that when it's there, right? It doesn't have to be told. You know that somebody is giving you their best. And then finally, going to number 3, The Karate Kid, that movie that came out, I want to say 6, 7, 8 years ago now, was the first movie that featured his son Jaden. Jaden was 11 in the movie, and they actually packed up the entire family and moved to China for this shoot. So I think Jaden had 7 months of karate training, kung fu training in the US, and then another 3 months in China before the movie started. It's amazing, actually, some of the things that this 11-year-old, he was 11, some of the things this 11-year-old kid did. And in China, you don't have the same laws about child actors as you do in the US. So Will and Jada Pinkett Smith, his wife, both say this. The laws are not the same, so they were able to push him more, okay? Now, this is at age 11, and some people might have a little bit of trouble with this, but if you see the interviews where they talk about it, it's clear that they have an immense love for their son, and Will Smith himself saw it as a learning experience for his son. So it wasn't they were pushing him to be some crazy kid actor. They, of course, don't need that. It was because this was an experience that he was going to be able to take with him for the rest of his life. And they show that when they talk about the son afterwards and how it looked like he was standing up straighter. His chest was out more. He had more confidence. And they said that that experience changed him at the young age of 11. One of the most critical moments of this was a time when he was working and he has a knee injury and he's hurt his knee. And he's laying down with an ice pack on his knee. And Will, his father, is standing over him saying, look, you got to give it your all. You got to give it your best. And if you remember, I have already told you there will be times when you're hurt and you still got to give it all of you, okay? This is to an 11-year-old boy, and Jaden replies, I think I want mom, right? He doesn't want to be hearing this from his dad right now. But in the end, Will says to him, that's what sets us apart. And I think he means the family. That's what sets us apart from other people. That when we're down, that when bad things happen, we still give all of ourselves. Okay, that's the 3 stories, and I think it really proves my point, and you can see where I'm going. There are a ton of things that make Will Smith effective, but I believe the number one thing, Will Smith chooses peak nature for service. Okay, I say peak nature, and what I really mean by that is he chooses the very best of who he is. And see, I believe we have all of that in us. We have a peak nature, okay? It's in our nature to give the very best of ourselves. And so Will Smith does this, but he does it in service. In fact, he has a quote from a late night show, and this is something that has stuck with me and resonated with me, where he says, unless you're living life in contribution of others, then there's no point. Unless the way you are acting is in service of someone else, then there's not a point. And he's alluded to, he's still trying to figure out what his main contribution, what his main purpose in life is. He's now, I think, right around 50, and he's still trying to figure out what that is. But the reason he gives the best of himself is because he believes doing that at all times is in service of others, in service of the people around him. So how do you apply this to your own life? And this is why I said earlier this was going to be a challenge, because it does seem that Will Smith has some innate ability from a young age to be in a peak state, right? To be displaying his peak nature. So I'm giving you a couple of different tools and strategies right here. The first I want to do is I want to give you 2 tools that you can use right now. They're tools really that give you a fast peak nature, okay, that allow you to tap into that a little bit faster. It's like a quick fix, but it's something you can do right now if you're feeling down or you're not giving your all to those around you. Number 1 is music. I have music playing, anybody who knows me, 24/7. If I'm sitting at my desk working, I have music playing. If I'm working out, I have music playing. If my wife and I are sitting at the end of a long day and we're talking, I have music playing. These are all appropriate for the context of where I am. My life is like a soundtrack. And if you watch movies, they have different types of music to invoke different types of emotion. Why not utilize that same thing for your own life rather than just sitting in it being quiet all the time? It's a small, quick thing you can do to help change your state. The second fast peak nature action you can take is a quick workout. Now, I'm fortunate enough that we have a workout room, like our own little gym that's a room on the house. And so what I will do, I will go into where the dumbbells are and I will simply do a power move for that day. So on certain days of the week, I have specific moves that I do, and I just do that one move throughout the day. So if I'm at a day where I'm sitting at my computer and I'm kind of getting lethargic or kind of feeling down, I will immediately get up, I'll go in there, and let's say, like today, for example, was a 2-way curl where I'm simply doing this and then doing this, and I might do a set of like 12 of those, which is 24 when you count both, and then get back to what I'm doing. That literally takes me about 60 seconds to do, but it's something that can almost immediately give me back that peak nature. I can also do that if I'm about to see someone. I did a Facebook Live earlier today on procrastination. Right before I did that power move to help get me in the peak state, and I also listened to the music. So that's the 2 things you can do to get in a fast peak state. Here's the 2 things you can do to get in a long-lasting peak state. Number 1 is you need to have a morning ritual. And I'm going to put a link to in the blueprint to a video I did maybe 6 months ago. It was a sneak peek at my morning ritual, or a look behind the curtain. And that really has not changed much in the last 6 months. So that'll be a huge benefit to you. Go to thestretchgame.com, download the blueprint. I'll have a link to that video, and that's all that video is about. It might actually be 2 videos. But you gotta have a morning ritual. That's going to involve mental health, that's going to involve spiritual health, that's going to involve physical health, emotional health, everything to prime the natural peak pump to get you in that right state, to give your best to the people around you. And then number 2 is I read from the book of Proverbs every single morning. Reading from the Word of God gets me in alignment with His will as a Christian, and it sets me up to feel confident about my day. When you feel confident about your day, when you feel confident about the direction you are heading in, that right there will help you get into your peak nature and just have certainty as to the actions you're taking and the direction you're heading in. So that is it. I threw a lot of content at you really fast, so you might want to download the blueprint on that one. But you can literally invoke Will Smith, and you can become that person that is observing, that is living in their peak nature, and then you can be the best of service to the people that are around you. You can rub off on them, and not only that, but it will derive the best from yourself in your everyday tasks and actions. I hope you found that super contributory. We're coming to the end of this, so I have to say this. Be that person, but whatever you do with this week, do 2 things with it. Be both purposeful and productive. Thank you so much, guys. We'll talk to you next time. Did you like this video? Would you like to make it a part of your daily life? If so, go to thestretchgame.com and download the blueprint. There you'll really get the meat of what was discussed today, because I throw a lot of content at you all at once. But more importantly, you will get your 7-day challenge. Now, this is the part that makes you a doer, not just a hearer. It allows you to really apply what you've learned to your life and be able to grow, be able to discover deeper purpose and master higher productivity. Also, if you'd like to know what it means to be and become a Christian, you can click Faith, and it will take you through a course where you can learn just that. Take care, my friends.